The White House is reviewing the final bipartisan Clarity Act deal right now. This weekend. Not next month. Not after the midterms. Today. If the administration signs off, the Senate could vote on the most consequential crypto legislation in American history before next Friday. If they don't, the bill likely dies until after the midterms. And everything, the price of Bitcoin, the future of every exchange in America, the legal status of your portfolio, hangs in the balance. Here's what just happened, why it matters, and what to watch this weekend. On Thursday, August 1st, crypto journalist Eleanor Tarrant broke the story. The White House is looking at a bipartisan ethics counteroffer from Senators Tom Tillis, Republican from North Carolina, and Ruben Gallego, Democrat from Arizona. The proposal landed at the White House Thursday morning. And here's why this is the biggest crypto story right now. The Clarity Act already passed the House. 294 to 134. That was July 2025, over a year ago. More than 70 Democrats crossed the aisle. It was the most bipartisan digital asset vote in congressional history. But the Senate has been stuck for 11 months. Not on the substance of crypto regulation. On one question, how do you stop the President of the United States from profiting off the very crypto industry he's supposed to regulate? A tax disclosure showed Trump made at least $1.4 billion in crypto income in 2025. $635 million from the Trump meme coin. $515 million from World Liberty financial token sales. Those numbers are why this fight exists. Before we get into the politics, let's be clear on what this bill actually does. Most coverage skips this part. The Clarity Act H.R. 3633 does three things. 1. It splits regulatory authority over digital assets between the SEC and the CFTC. The SEC keeps power over crypto assets that are securities, basically, fundraising tokens. The CFTC gets primary authority over digital commodities assets whose value is tied to how their blockchain actually works. Bitcoin and Ethereum would clearly be commodities. Most major altcoins would fall under CFTC oversight too. 2. It creates a federal registration path for crypto exchanges. Right now, exchanges operate in a legal gray zone. The SEC says they should register, but there's no practical way to do it. This bill fixes that. It lets exchanges register with the CFTC as digital commodity exchanges and operate under a clear federal rulebook instead of navigating 50 different state money transmitter licenses. 3. It bans senior federal officials, including the president, from issuing or sponsoring digital assets. This is the ethics provision that's been the sticking point. And it's the provision that nearly killed the bill. There are also provisions on stablecoin regulation restricting interest-like payments based solely on holding tokens while allowing rewards tied to transactions, and legal protections for software developers who don't offer custody services. So if the bill is this good, why has it been stuck for 11 months? On July 21st, the White House announced it had accepted what it called the most extensive federal ethics restrictions ever proposed. Language negotiated with Republican Senators Cynthia Lummis and Bernie Moreno. It bars officials and their spouses from issuing or sponsoring digital assets. But Democrats said the language had 5 major loopholes. The biggest one, enforcement rested solely with the Department of Justice. An attorney general appointed by the president. Democrats argued that a rule enforced only by Trump's own DOJ would be effectively unenforceable against Trump himself. Senator Cynthia Lummis, one of the bill's lead Republican negotiators, voiced frustration. After nearly 11 months of giving almost everything asked of us, I genuinely don't know what else my Democrat colleagues need. White House crypto advisor Patrick Witt told reporters, make it make sense. 7 Senate Democrats rejected the last ethics draft. The bill needed at least 7 Democrats to reach 60 votes. It was a stalemate. Enter Tillis and Gallego. On July 29, these 2 senators, one Republican, one Democrat, finalized compromise ethics language and sent it to the White House. The change is simple but powerful. The revision does not change the core ban. Senior officials still can't issue or sponsor digital assets. What changes is who enforces it. Under the old language, enforcement rested solely with the DOJ. The Tillis-Gallego proposal adds a role for state attorneys general. If the DOJ won't act, state authorities can step in and enforce the ban themselves. This is the key insight: it's not a stronger ban. It's a backup enforcer. If the federal government won't police its own, the states can. Gallego has said lawmakers are close to finalizing language. Tillis called the enforcement expansion a workable starting point. And now the ball is in the White House's court. Here's where it gets tight. The Senate needs 60 votes to overcome a filibuster. Republicans hold an effective 52-47 majority. Senator Mitch McConnell is absent for medical reasons. That means at least 8 Democrats need to cross over. Only 2 Democrats voted the bill out of committee, Gallego and Senator Angela Alsobrooks of Maryland. Both have conditioned their floor support on strong conflict of interest rules. Their votes are mathematically necessary. Senate Majority Leader John Thune has signaled a floor vote is still possible before the August 7 recess. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has publicly urged the Senate to act. But here's the problem: cloture is a multi-day procedure. The White House needs to sign off quickly for a vote to be teed up next week. If the administration's response takes too long, the window closes. So where does this leave us? If the White House signs off on the Tillis-Gallego language this weekend, Thune could move to begin the cloture process next week. The bill would get a floor vote before recess. And if it passes, and the House reconciles its version, the Clarity Act becomes law. Crypto gets a federal rulebook. Exchanges get a registration pathway. The SEC CFTC turf war gets resolved. If the White House rejects it, or delays past the recess, passage slips into the autumn, crowded by midterm election campaigns. And the further we get from the election, the harder bipartisan cooperation becomes. Michael Saylor in Strategy Incorporated officially backed the Clarity Act on July 31 to grayscale urged the Senate to vote before recess. Abra's CEO Bill Barr had added his support. The industry is united. The question is whether Washington can get out of its own way. This weekend, the White House will decide. If you're watching crypto, and you should be, this is the moment. Subscribe for weekly crypto policy breakdowns. Drop a comment: do you think the Clarity Act gets 60 votes before recess? I read every one.